Welcome to the War Room. Oh, wow. I think we have an awesome treat for people today. Otis McGregor is here from Tribe and Purpose. And we're going to be able to dive into something that I think more senior people are going to be able to appreciate who are in the game, been around for a while, but also for anyone who's just starting out to see exactly what it takes to get to the level that you're aiming for. So with that said, Jason and I welcome you. I hear it's not the first time, and it definitely won't be the last time. So welcome back.
Oh, I appreciate it. Good to see y'all, and thanks for the opportunity and bringing me back, man. Good to talk.
Yeah. So I always like to kick things off with a question. I think it does a lot for the tone of a conversation, and that is, do you yourself, Otis, come from a family of entrepreneurs?
No, not at all, which is kind of interesting. My dad, PhD in rocket science, and designed and built, fighter jets for 30 some odd years. I think the closest I would come that I'm thinking in relatives would be an uncle who was a lawyer and had his own law firm. So everybody else, I think I'm the black sheep of the family.
Now, is that by design? Did you specifically decide you were going to break the mold, break away, start a different path?
No, I was afraid of it. When I first retired from the Army, I went into corporate world, because that's what I knew, get a job. And I had plenty of friends who started their own business and said, you should also, Otis. And I was like, nah, that's scary stuff. I don't want to do that. And finally, I got to the point where I was frustrated enough and all the other jobs and things I'd been doing that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this completely other thing. It's completely different from anything I'd been doing, anything I thought about as a means of generating revenue. Consulting. I did consulting for a while, doing the same thing I was doing in corporate world. That didn't sit, but it wasn't until I decided to do leadership coaching and executive coaching that it's like, all right, I can do this, and I can handle the risks to do this, to grow it. So
now, was there anything that happened in all your years in service and training that carried over into what you do with Tribe and Purpose?
Yeah, tons of it. A lot. I operated with a lot of autonomy in what I did with the Green Berets. There was a lot of just go over there and do some of that stuff over there and call us if you need help. And that autonomy, really, which is ironic that it took me 7 years after the Army to figure that out. But that autonomy, I think, is part of it, in that sense of, well, I can do what I need to do, how I need to do it, when I need to do it, and with whomever I want to. And when I was doing stuff with the Green Berets, almost every one of my missions, even when the entire unit was there, I was out by our, as an old boss of mine used to say, and we were out alone and unafraid. So that gave us a lot of freedom, which is, you figure it out, which is what entrepreneurs do, right? I mean, what's the problem set? How do we fix it? All right, let's move on to the next. Whether that problem set's within the business or the problem set that you're solving is the business, it's that sort of a thing. And that's what we did. And, as Green Berets, I had a lot of autonomy, and that was a lot of power that enabled me to get to where I am now and do what I'm doing.
I love it. Now, I love that you brought up as well that that's kind of what entrepreneurship is that level of autonomy. For some people, that's crippling. Having that much freedom, they don't know what to do with it. Even some entrepreneurs that are somehow making it work live with this imposter syndrome, if you will, right? And nothing short of procrastinating to the very end and then finally taking action because they know they have to. But that freedom can be crippling for people. Did you ever experience that, or have you heard of entrepreneurs or people who had that freedom during a mission? And did you see how they were able to overcome that, change that, flip that?
Well, and this may not be exactly what you're looking for, but one of the things that jumped into my mind in that, particularly I've seen it happen with service members when they separate, is that loss of structure. And one of the things that I've always been very, very good about with myself is structured discipline. From getting up in the morning, my routine in the morning has been the same. I get up and I work out. That's what I used to do when I was in the Army. I get up, I work out, I eat breakfast, I get things done. I have lunch around the same time every day, sort of thing. So I've established a routine which makes that freedom, that free form, I wouldn't say not exist, but puts things back in my control, which is huge for me and huge for all of us. I always teach people about the importance of that routine, because a personal routine is a system for ourselves. And in business, how do we get business more efficient and more effective? We create systems, because once we have systems, it's repeatable, and then we can tweak it and analyze it and improve on it. Well, our personal routine is no different. Do I get up and pee, then brush my teeth? Or maybe it's a little bit more efficient if I do it the other way around. Maybe I should, I change my workup around. You can experiment, because it's a routine, it's a system that we're creating in ourselves, and we can analyze it and improve on it. And that's, to me, that's such a huge thing. And military guys, I tell them all the time, and every one of them, they're like, I'm just going to sleep in. I got a good friend of mine that's doing this right now. Just retired a couple of months ago. It's like, I just sleep in and do whatever, I get up when I'm like, dude, it's going to come around. It'll come around, and you're going to feel that void in your gut, and this feeling of something's missing. And it's that structure. I don't care who you are, flower child, whatever, sort of, free dancing in there's still structure. If you exist in this earth and in this society, there's structure, and you have to understand it and use it. And that's where these personal routines, these personal systems, are so powerful for people. I don't know if that's where you were going. I think I took it a little bit off, but that's a huge part for entrepreneurs, I believe, is what's your routine. And people that are just working from home. I mean,
yes, that's exactly what I was getting at.
Yeah,
I wanted to set the stage for that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working from home well before the Rona happened. So from like 2015 or so, and I always have done it the same way. I treat working from home just like I'm driving to the office. The only difference is my commute is 30 steps from the kitchen as opposed to 30 minutes in the truck. I get up, I get dressed, I put my shoes on, I put my pants on. I am in the mode to do the work. I honestly don't know how people do it in their bunny slippers and all that stuff. It's like, okay, but you're not engaged. I don't believe you can truly be engaged if that's how you do it. But if it works, it works.
Yeah. And I want to thank you for just being so generous with all that. I want to go back to a moment, that I think is important in the story before we go that far. And that is specifically before Tribe and Purpose became your focus. Where were you just before that? What were you doing? You just gone out and then went to go, because you said you were working already, right?
Yeah. So it took me 7 years post-Army to figure it out. I worked for 5 different companies. I was consulting in between those companies. Every company I thought was going to be it for the next 20 years. And 90 days into every one of them, I was like, something ain't right here, man. I don't know what it is, but something ain't right. Remember that gut feeling I talked about. I had that gut feeling that something wasn't right. And what happened to me was I had a great job. Worked for a good friend of mine, a small business based in my hometown of Fort Worth, Texas. And I had carte blanche. I was the only guy in the company who worked remote. I was a chief strategy officer, and I had freedom. I could do whatever. I traveled when I wanted to, went and met with whomever I wanted to, because I was doing strategy, big hand, little map waves of business, strategy. out there. And I was miserable. I was frustrated and miserable. And I was sitting here in my home office. It's been about 5 years now, 5 years ago, feeling sorry for myself, wondering who I was supposed to be, what I was supposed to be doing, what was my meaning of life, all those sort of questions that boil up. And as I started to think and realize, since leaving the Army, there'd only been two things that I'd had consistent since leaving the Army, and that was my family and rugby, because I just at that point just finished my 7th year of coaching boys high school rugby. And excuse me, as I looked at that, and why had I spent practically another full-time job every day for 6 months out of the year, and then 2 or 3 times a week in the off season, done all this stuff. And as I looked at it, I realized the game of rugby is an awesome game. I always give it a plug. You see my rugby ball in the background from the USA going to the World Cup a couple of years ago. That was number one. Number two was the boys. 35 extra sons for my wife and I, in and out of our house all the time. We loved those boys. Matter of fact, I was just at a graduation party for one of my former players from medical school on Saturday. Just how proud I am of them. Amazing. But what I realized is that the third thing, the act of coaching, is what was keeping me in the game. What was keeping me there. It was challenging those young men to do more than they thought they could, holding them accountable, teaching, guiding, mentoring them, not just in the game of rugby, but in life. And that was when I realized that's what I'm supposed to be doing for others. That's what I do to give back to society, is creating a legacy of leaders. That's my purpose, to make the world better by making better leaders.
I love where this conversation is going, because of how many people may even start businesses, be really successful, and still not be in a place where that's their purpose. We can talk, you can point at almost any leader and say, yeah, this isn't what I intended to do, but I'm doing great. Right. And then you get enough time to yourself, and you have enough time to think out loud, and you realize, wow, I'm not even sure this is what I want to be doing, which is crazy, because for some people that would be the dream. I don't know if you can relate to that, Jason, but so some people can succeed and then still not feel like what they're doing matters. And I know that's why you as well, both you, Otis, and Jason, you both have your hands in a couple of things where you're just constantly helping others grow. And so I want to make sure that I give ample room here for Jason to chime in and just sort of input on some of the things you just shared, because it's a key and important moment that many people might even gloss over and not see coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, first of all, business is war, right? It is. It's like its own little war. Just it's different thing. And I always tell people, business is war. You're just not getting shot at. That's all.
Yeah.
Right. So
nobody's going to die. Just got to remind yourself.
Nobody's going to die today. Right. So that's really important. And then, you start talking about, really having a purpose and loving what you do. I'm in very much a very similar business as Otis is. He's more on the coaching. I'm more on the strategy side of things, but still it's all leadership, built and driven by leadership. Right. And, the thing is I have 6 other companies, and I hate all of those, because none of them are about leading people. They're either selling a service or a product or something, right? There's nothing fun about it. It doesn't fill my cup, right? You got to do something that at least fills your cup. It doesn't mean you have to get up every morning with, freaking unicorns and shit flying out of your ass. But I mean, because that's not real, right? but you get up and you have a sense of purpose to what you're going to do in the day. I always love that. It's the first part of General McRaven's speech at a college. And
Admiral McRaven.
It's about his whatever. Yeah. Admiral McRaven. That's right. Yeah. But it's his 10 things or whatever. And the first one is about having a purpose. And the first thing you have to do is just get up and make your bed, right? Because that's an accomplishment for that day. You've got up and you've had an accomplishment of making your bed. And, you know, I mean, if you haven't listened to that, please go Google it. It is very inspiring. Admiral McRaven, it was at, I don't know what
He
college
was at the University of Texas. It was a commencement.
University of Texas.
It was actually right before I'm a friend of Admiral McRaven's.
Oh,
It was
wow.
actually right before he became president of the university. So,
Oh, okay. There you go. There you go. You got the call Otis.
Yeah, call Otis. So
He's got the end.
so that moment where you saw clearly, clear as day, there's a reason why I keep doing this, even though everything else in my life is demanding my time and attention. I make time for this. And you listed out all the reasons, but you also were able to tap into why it is you felt so called to do this. How did you flip that into a business? Did you already understand business models well enough? Or were you like, I don't care how, I'm gonna make it happen?
well, I'm guessing you mean me, but I want to jump.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something about purpose real quick. If you feel like you got to push yourself to do it, then that's not your purpose. Your purpose should pull you. It should be that rope around the waist, pulling you out of bed, pulling you into action. That's what your purpose should be. You shouldn't have to force yourself to do it. Now, there's things you're going to have to force yourself to do in life, right? That what were we talking about the other day, Jason? Making it through the suck. I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank on the phrase.
Yeah.
Embrace the suck. There we go.
Embrace the suck. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do that, right? But that makes it all the better. But if that purpose isn't pulling you through the suck, then it's probably not your purpose. So now, sorry, re-ask your question.
Yeah. No, it ties right into it. And that is that it's not like everything else was trying to ask for your attention and you were making the time and effort. But one thing that was effortless, even though it was a full-time job, as you said, was being there as a coach and challenging other minds to grow beyond their limits. How did you flip that from just being the coaching thing with kids and helping them grow and do sports to turning it into a business at an executive level?
Well, the first thing I did is I started talking to people in my network. That was the first thing. I was like, hey, well, I'll take it back one more step. The first thing I did was I decided I didn't want to be a professional rugby coach. I decided that was my first decision. Okay. At 50 years old, I'm not going to start that walk up the pyramid. No. So I started talking to a couple of friends about this feeling I had about coaching and how much I enjoyed it. And I even reflected on my time as a leader in the Army and how I led there and how I coached and mentored my team in those situations. And as I talked to my friends, I said, hey, there's this thing called business coaching. There's another thing called executive coaching. I'm like, what? I hadn't even heard of it. All I knew about was like Tony Robbins life coaching, right? Clapping your hands and jumping up and down. And I was like, that ain't me. I'm not a raw guy. So talking to these guys, they introduced me to those two terms. And then I got introduced to a couple of successful coaches at the second and third level of my network, bought them coffee, sat down and said, how'd you do this? How do you run a business in this sense? What is it that you do? What's it, who are your clients and all these sort of things. And they gave me a great education. And that was how I learned how to change it into this volunteer high school rugby coach into being a leadership coach as a business.
Yeah. And so that's where most people, like, for example, they're listening to a podcast like this and they go, right, I get it. Then they don't execute, right? So how did you get yourself? Was it effortless because it was so strong of a purpose for you? Like you knew this is what you wanted to do, that didn't matter what it was going to take, even if you knew that it was going to take this much work and it was going to be this difficult, but you knew that eventually it would work. Is that sort of just what it was, one foot in front of the other? Or did you realize,
I had a couple of things.
Before you answer that,
go ahead.
I think it's really important that people know that this isn't somebody that just started a coaching company because they didn't have their job or something like that. You're talking 20 plus years of leadership experience coming into it. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And I want to be sure to point that out, because that's an important fact about this conversation is, you don't just graduate college and think you're going to lead people and teach them how to do leadership and all this stuff. Right. Okay. So I just want to make that clear going into the conversation, that just because like Otis didn't, started his journey in this executive coaching stuff, right? There's 20 some years of peer experience coming behind that your average schmuck out there doesn't have.
Under real pressure.
Right. And I don't want to make that sound like it's like punching people in the face, but I kind of am a little bit.
It's a little clarity.
But it is. It's just to be clear. You don't just come into these things and it's like one day, voila, I'm just going to teach people how to lead. Right. It doesn't work that way. I read a book, right?
Heard a podcast. So now I'm going to go.
Anyway, go back to that. I just needed to clarify that.
Thank you. No, it's true.
And,
it's true.
Make sure we're all on the same sheet of music as listeners.
Bring me back around, Phillip. I've completely lost the.
Yeah. So a lot of people take the time to try to reach out to people online, find mentors, what have you, but they don't have the experience that you have. I mean, it's not only that you had leadership experience, you had leadership experience under real pressure in possibly foreign lands and domestic lands, right? So we're talking, just to highlight what Jason was saying and what I was asking you, is that there was an interesting mixture of things that happened that got you to a point where you were making the decision to move forward. However, for some people who might be listening, they might have their own mixture and might even have the opportunity to sit down and have coffee with someone, and they still don't take action. It's so for you, was it a matter of you were already prepared and all you needed to know was a few things to unlock that? Or even with all your experience, was it drudgery launching a business in the field that you knew your purpose existed in?
Well, to steal Jason's words, it wasn't all unicorns. I can tell you that. But, one thing, I had two things going for me. I'm a planner, so I had a plan. I had a vision for what I wanted to do, how I wanted to get and accomplish that vision. And the other thing that pulled me, and it still does to this day, is one of my driving factors, my passion, is to give back to the veteran tribe. So I coach soon to be veterans. We call them fellows, service members that are transitioning out. And I help them figure out what the heck they're going to do so that they don't repeat the mistakes that I did and spend 7 years bouncing around from job to job thinking that's going to be. So that was a huge, and still is a huge incentive for me. I mean, it's one of my, sometimes I feel sorry for those guys when I get on to them when we're on a call. The first call is always a little bit of a shock to them when I lay it out and tell them why we're doing this and why I'm going to make sure they don't have the same mistakes that we have. Because here's the other piece that I've learned how to explain this just recently in the last 6 months or so. It's if you keep what you know, your experiences, your knowledge up here, and you're not sharing it, you're being one selfish SOB, 100%. Anybody that's out there listening, if you've got an experience and you're not sharing that experience with somebody else so that they don't have, so that they can get better, so they can leap ahead in their job, they can leap ahead in their business, they can avoid the pitfalls that you went through. If you're not sharing that, you're a selfish son of a bitch. I mean, there's no other way of putting it.
That's true. Wow.
I would agree with that.
So we're putting it together here. There's a clear sense of purpose. You find that out. And you also have clear incentives tied to your purpose. When you start to align those, it makes overcoming challenges, especially as there will be in business when launching a business, from the admin work to actually creating a situation where you can get clients going and what that means. all of that allows for you to be able to face those things, knowing that there's going to be merit to what you're doing. And that's why purpose and incentives are so important. I'm piecing this together just from our conversation, but now I want to flip the script. And because these are what I've surmised from just having a brief conversation about the story. But now you've launched Tribe and Purpose and you're getting clients. Does the process look similar to that, to kind of the conversation we just had, or is it completely different?
No, there's always the frustration of the business side, because, there's things that you got to do, as you're growing a business, there's only so much revenue. So what do we tell all founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs? If it's not something you want to do, then hire somebody to do it. Well, there's only so much cash in the bank too. So you can't, I can't throw it all away and just do the thing that I love, because you got to get to that point as you scale your business. That's one of the great things about it. And there's an incentive right there. All right, if I get 2 more clients, then I can take this other thing that I do and hand it off to somebody else, somebody else that's their passion. That's what they love to do. They're an expert at that, instead of me trying to figure out how to do it. So I think that's a continuous thing in business, because even as you grow, and you get to that point, there's still those things that are like, yeah, well, that didn't work out so well, or whatever. We still have a lot to learn, no matter what size your business is. As long, to put it in a broader sense, it's the lifelong learner. What's next? Because as your business grows, you should be growing. You should see what's next, creating that next vision, that next opportunity. How do you change? What's that going to do to change your business? How do you modify? How do you pivot? How do you adjust? Because, Facebook changed the way they do their ads, or LinkedIn did this, or here's a personal one, my TEDx talk that was doing really good and getting a lot of views on YouTube. Well, there was a problem with the TED website, so they had to take it down. And now when they finally repost it again, whenever that happens in the next week or so, my views will be 0 again. And so, how do you fix that? How do you move forward from that? All these things, it's never roses, but it's always better.
I see. So when people come to you when they're at the point in time when they seek out Tribe and Purpose and what you do, they have any number of problems, but do any of them ever feel confident about their purpose already and just feel like testing it against whatever you might know? Or what does that look like?
I'm trying to think if I've had anybody that came to me with that kind of clarity. Usually it's I'm not really sure. Matter of fact, I had a call with a future client this morning, and she's like, I'm just tired of going through the motions. I don't know what I want to do. Because I said, so, we understand who we are today, and then we want to just figure out who we want to be. And she said, I have no idea who I want to be. I have no idea where and what and who I want to be in the future. That's a tough place, and there's millions and millions of people out there that's the way they live their life, in reaction mode. They're just going through the motions every morning. They don't know. The only thing they're thinking about is when's 5 o'clock on Friday and when's my next vacation. They're not thinking about anything else. Maybe they're thinking about retirement, because maybe they're saving for retirement. They're not looking at it as a vision to pull them to where they want to be, so that they can start living with intention. They're living in reaction mode. And, I've been there. After the Army, I lived in reaction mode. And, somebody send me an offer letter, I'd be like, oh, cool. You must really think I'm smart. I'm good and, important and all that stuff. Somebody wants me. And so I take the job, and without any other thought. And that's that reaction mode. That's just going through the motions. Man, it's a tough place to live. It's no fun.
What about people who, and this could be people from all levels of life, who have written down, have done the work of figuring out what it is they want to do, and then they still don't go after it? What do you say to people like that?
Are you sure? Well, first off, are you sure that's what you want to do? Right? Because if you're not willing to, that falls into the I wanna, I wanted this, I wanted that, I should have this, I should have that. You know, if it doesn't, back to that, if it doesn't pull you, it's probably not the right thing. And if you truly believe it and you write it down, you've taken it that far to write it down, then you need to share it. You need to get yourself become part of a tribe, right? So that your tribe holds you accountable. Hey, Phillip, did you make those phone calls you said you were going to make that were the action steps that lead to the objective you said you wanted to accomplish this month? Did you? Why didn't you?
Yeah.
You start to having an accountability partner is an amazing tool, and being part of a tribe is a great way to have that accountability partner that will, man, because you know what? I always use the gym expression. And Jason, you know this, man. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you're like, dude, I just want to go home and have a beer. I just want to go home and have a beer. And about 4 o'clock, my phone rings, and it's Jason, and he's like, hey, Otis, man, see you at the gym in about 10 minutes. Okay. Right? I mean, that's what an accountability partner is. And it was more of a, Jason was probably on the other end going, damn, I hope Otis says no. But that's what an accountability partner does. And we as humans, we hate letting people down. We will screw ourselves over all day long. But you know what? If I tell Jason I'm going to do something and I know Jason's going to call me tomorrow and I ain't got it done, shit, I'm staying up tonight. I'm working on that damn thing because I don't want to let Jason down. That's a human nature thing. So that's another great aspect. And that's why we have the tribe part of the tribe and purpose of being held accountable by your friends, family, counterparts, coworkers, you name it.
Oh yeah,
it's
man.
good to it's really good to just have, it's good to have somebody to be accountable to, right? I mean, me and Otis are a part of a group together, and just for some perspective, right? And we met the other morning, and he goes, "I need everybody to go update this shit." Right. And I didn't update it, right? I didn't necessarily know I needed to at that moment, but you can guarantee that shit got done. It was done. I did it.
I'll be checking it when we hang up.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it here if it wasn't true.
I'd be calling you, right?
That's right. What the hell? Are you going to bullshit on a podcast? What's wrong with you? No, but that's just all that whole thing of, it's also respect, right? Oh, that we respect the people around us that we've chosen to be associated with, right? That's a huge part of it. Because like me personally, I mean, I'm probably not going to associate with you if I really don't care for you all that much, right? Because it's not always just about, well, you're a client. Well, I don't want to work with somebody I don't want to work with, right? I don't want to put myself in touch points with people that I don't want to be around or be accountable to, or somebody to go, hey, Jack, you told me you were going to do this and you didn't do it. You just lost some points here. And then I'm just going to be like, fuck. That's some bullshit on me, right?
Yeah.
But that's how you hold each other accountable, is take a few heat rounds in the face every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
In a day like today, that's something that's so important, given just think about the way we're doing this, right? We're doing it remotely, and the younger generation is growing up less and less involved with people in person on a day-to-day basis, which means they probably didn't develop a skill to even retain a relationship long distance because of that, right? Because it all starts from practice that you had in person. So there are some interesting things that I think young people are facing today. And I'm curious, I know that you usually work with executives, and they're not always the youngest people. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but they tend to be busy paying the dues to get there. But you also coached young people for a very long time. And I'm wondering, Otis, do you find that there are any skills or things that, knowing what you know now, if you went back to when you were still early on in coaching rugby, that you would add to the things you'd say to those young kids?
Yeah, I think I would. And one of the things that I started doing towards the end before, by the way, I refer to my coaching career. I'm on sabbatical, just in case I didn't end it. I'm not retired from it. I'm on sabbatical. But one of the things that I would definitely do is give them life lessons. Because here's how our season would go. Once we would start, we'd run January through June, and we were together 6 days a week. We would practice Monday through Friday and have a game on Saturday. Monday, and then once the game started, so Mondays would be film day, and all the boys would be here at the house, and we'd watch the game film. That would have been one of probably the best opportunity to just whatever little life lesson it is, whether it's a relationship, how to do relationships, how to sell something, how to manage money. In hindsight, that would have been just the perfect time to do that, because it's a nice, relaxed environment. Miss Suzanne makes chocolate chip cookies for them. They're drinking lemonade, so they're eating. They're chilling out. They're all hanging out together in this nice close knit, just 30 boys piled into this one room, our living room. It used to stink so damn bad when they left. But that is, looking back on it, that is the one thing I would definitely do is add that aspect in, a weekly life lesson for them. So that, they learned a lot. One of the great things about rugby is the character that it develops carries through. A kid that didn't have good character didn't perform well on the pitch, on or off, it didn't matter. Because if you don't have good character, you can't be a good teammate. And rugby is so much about all 15 players on the pitch working together. So there's names known, but that superstar name can't carry the other 14 players like in other sports. So it's that test of character and the work ethic and those things that went into it on the pitch carried into their life off the pitch. But it would have been nice to be, not let them just kind of figure out that was what was happening, but show them those things too.
Yeah. So that would mean any young leader should pay attention to learning every day, being able to reflect and what did I learn? Ask that question. If they intend to be serious about having an ambitious life that goes somewhere, but also making sure that they take great care to learn about sales and to learn about what it means to have real relationships in life, and to be able to put themselves in a position where they understand the basics of money management and can take it further. Ideally, these are things that, like, across the board, if you can have those lined up before you go out and do what you're doing, or do it while you're doing what you're trying to accomplish, you get a lot better, a lot further along faster. Is this accurate?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because you've got the tools earlier in life, and you can start to apply them very early on in life. And imagine, I also like to think of imagine if you had clarity in what your purpose was at 18, 19 years old. Now, I want to kind of put the footnote, the public service announcement on this part. You may have a purpose at 18, 19 years old. That doesn't mean that it's your life purpose. Our purpose can change. It's okay, right? But if you had that kind of clarity of something you knew pulling you forward at that age, that's a powerful place to be in life.
Right on. Now there's two things, and I'm sure Jason may interject here. Two things left in our conversation, and man, it just feels like it's so short because there's so much to get from this. But number one, where do you prefer for people to get a hold of you? Like, is it your website, a social channel?
Both. I mean, really, if you go to tribe-purpose.com, click the Get Started button. You have two options. One, sign up for our Monday Moments newsletter. It's a great way to kick off your week. It's me sharing those experiences that I have so that you can live a better life and have more excitement and success that week. And then the other thing on that same page is you can sign up, schedule a call with me, get on my calendar, schedule a call, and we can talk about how you can have more clarity and resolve in your purpose.
Nice. And with that, the grand finale, before I go into it, Jason, is there anything you wanted to pick up that maybe I got in the way of you saying while we were talking?
Let's roll into the finale, baby.
Let's do it. All right. So the grand finale, Otis, is if you could have invited anybody today to sit in on our conversation, maybe even be an additional guest, dead or alive, who would you have loved to have had here and why?
Oh, my go-to is Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. I'm a Stoic. I love that philosophy as part of what drives me in each and every day. And if you think about his book Meditations, some people call it a journal. Some people say it's notes to his son for when his son becomes emperor. But either way, it was written 2,500 years ago. And it is amazing how much it applies today in leadership in life. Highly, highly recommend anybody out there that if you haven't read it to pick it up and read it. I mean, you can get a paperback copy off of Amazon for 99 cents. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Valid.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that. I think it paints a picture of the type of DNA that you bring to script. You combine that with the experiences we know you've had in service and as a coach, and there's just these strong values and this cohesive picture of what people can expect from being part of Tribe and Purpose. There really is tribe and purpose thrown into that, and with an objective of getting you to a better place than you were before having come across Tribe and Purpose. So I can't thank you enough for breaking it down, being open about some of the experiences in your life. I definitely have a moment of reflection myself on what it means to be part of a team after our conversation. So thank you so much for all you do. Those are my closing thoughts. Jason?
Yeah, well, I always like to end with this. It's 168 hours in the week. Thank you for stopping by and spending 30 of them with us. We're busy, but you know what? We're never really that busy, are we? Not really. It's always time for friends, no matter what. Right. And thanks for coming by and spending some time with us, brother. And look forward to a long-lasting, relationship with you. And thanks for coming to the War Room. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I appreciate the time. Good to see you all.
All right. Cheers.